If you are part of the BACP Entrepreneur Certificate Program, you can get credit for joining this webinar by sending an email to bacpoutreach@cityofchicago.org. If you want to learn about the program, please visit chicago.gov/business education. Also, this webinar is being recorded and will be available at youtube.com/ChicagoBACP. I will post the mentioned information in the chat box. We encourage attendees to ask questions. Please use the chat box to send your questions. There will be a Q&A session at the end of the presentation. Please note that the views, information, and opinions expressed during this webinar are solely those of the presenter and do not necessarily represent the official policy or position of the Department of Business Affairs and Consumer Protection or the City of Chicago. Today's webinar will be Accounting in QuickBooks presented by Trak Patel. Trak?
Hello.
Audio sounds great.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. My name is Trak Patel, the founder of ARC Consulting. And as you can see here, we're going to be talking about accounting in QuickBooks. And for those of you who are new to this, this is going to be a high-level overview of two different types of QuickBooks formats. Want to show you the difference between QuickBooks Online as well as QuickBooks Desktop. The other piece that we'll be discussing here as well. Let me let's get to the agenda. Setting up QuickBooks, show you some navigation of screens, some input of transactions, and like I said, the comparisons between the desktop and the online. And we're going to go through, all different types of things within the accounting functions of QuickBooks, the chart of accounts, vendors, customers, checking account reports. And like I said, this will be high level. QuickBooks is fairly advanced. So if if it's the first time going through QuickBooks, you probably should, take some advanced, some more advanced classes or courses to help you navigate through it. But this will give you a really good idea of how powerful the software is and, the pluses and minuses of using the different two formats. And also what you should be looking for, when you're doing the accounting. And given that, some of you probably are new to the business that you're currently, in, whether you started it recently or maybe you've been doing it for a while. I've encountered all types of situations where we have had clients who've started out using Excel, paper, different formats, but QuickBooks does give you an opportunity to be far more robust in your accounting needs, I guess. So let's start with the online QuickBooks. So let's go through that. So what I'm going to be showing you is actually a sample file, and you actually are able to pull this information on your own as well. If you just Google sample QuickBooks, and you can pull up the same exact file that I'm seeing here. It's just, you're able to go in, practice, do whatever you like. That way you get an idea of what QuickBooks is like. The other format that I'll be showing you is the desktop. And let me show you what that looks like. This is the desktop version. Now, let me just show you apples and apples. So this is what they call the dashboard, okay, online. And this is the dashboard on desktop. As you can see, drastically different. This is also a sample file that you see here. Now, the sample file for the desktop QuickBooks is not available unless you purchase the actual desktop QuickBooks software. So, and we can talk about the fees in a minute, but unfortunately, that's the only bad thing about the desktop. There's no way of obtaining, the actual sample file or being able to practice without obtaining the actual software. So what is the difference between the two when it comes to whether you go online or you go desktop? That's, it's actually, in some cases, is a preference, choice. The online obviously gives you the ability to do it anywhere you have a computer. You don't have to be on your own computer to do it. You could be pretty much anywhere. You can be in a library or anywhere and just log into QuickBooks, .com and sign in, and you're onto your account, your company file. Of course, the desktop version, you can only access it where it's stored, which most likely would be on your computer. So if multiple people need to access it, that becomes a bit of a challenge, where if it's only residing on your computer. Now, the cost between the two, it varies a little bit. So and here's the biggest difference. So online, they have different tiers of pricing, and depending on how many features you want on the online version. Some of the more basic versions, which most people will be fine with in the beginning, is like is about $25 a month, and then it gets goes up from there. And I believe if you go online, you can get the pricing structure too. They have it all available, and they give you some type of discount for the first 3 months, like 50% or 40%, whatever the promotion is. And then it goes back to the normal pricing of $25 to up to, I think, $50 a month. And then the desktop version, you can actually purchase it on a so they changed the way they do this now. Used to be you could buy it and not worry about it, for years. Now they changed it where it's subscription based, where you purchase the software. I believe, I don't know what the new pricing is, but last year was about between $400 and $500. Might be comparable for a year, and you have access to their customer service and so on. And this is annually, by the way. But the desktop is much more powerful compared to the online version. Online, where you're paying extra fee for certain features, with the desktop you get all of those features for the one price. So that's the difference. Whether you use those features or not, you'll get them all. So that's the biggest difference when it comes down to the desktop and the online. And of course, the other item I talked about, the ability, the ease of being online. Now, I personally prefer desktop because it is much more user friendly. There's a lot more features. There are certain quirkiness to the online version that I don't really like, but it is very, it is user friendly. It is the ease of it is very nice. So I would say, those things are a plus. Now, of course, the desktop could be a little bit overwhelming for someone who, is doing this for the first time. Whereas the online can be a little bit easier to navigate. All right, so let's go through some of the basics of and I'm going to flip between the two, the desktop and the online, so you can see the differences. So when you first log into QuickBooks, this is what you see, the dashboard on the desktop, and then similarly, you will see the same thing on the online version as well. Okay, now, the coolest features, one of the best features that they have in QuickBooks is the ability to sync with your bank account. That is by far the best thing. You can do that online and on the desktop. This is what it looks like online. So now you'll have to check with your bank. Majority of the banks you can do this with. There are a few you may not be able to, like maybe there are smaller local banks, but majority of the banks we've encountered, you should be able to do this with. And this is what it looks like when it's linked. Online is actually easier when it comes to the feed, whereas desktop, requires a little bit of, more nuance to it, and I can explain the difference. So the cool thing about online is once, if you have a checking account or savings account, you can do the credit cards as well, which is awesome. What it does is it automatically, you put in your login information, your user ID and password. Online QuickBooks will automatically go out, pull the data periodically. I mean, pretty much on a daily basis, automatically. You don't have to do anything. And if you want it, you can click update and it goes out and pulls the data too. So what it does is it goes out to the bank, pulls the data, and you can see all the transactions that have gone through your bank account. And here you can see there's a number of transactions that have been pulled from the bank account. And then what you need to do is you need to then go in and categorize it. What does it mean to categorize? Well, you're going to categorize, meaning, okay, if this is a deposit, is it income? Is it a refund? Whatever it might be that you receive. So in this situation, this is a service, by the way, this sample company is called Craig's Landscaping. It's just a dummy, like I said, sample company, and it's showing some transactions. This looks like it's a deposit. Now, QuickBooks sometimes, will automatically put names to it if it is already been done before. In this situation, it's called Books by Bessie, and it looks like it already exists, and it's showing as a vendor in this. So it looks like this might be some type of a refund that they, issued. So we'll say, supplies, for example, and you have to categorize. When I say categorize, it's okay. What kind of a transaction is this? Is it an expense account? Okay, if it's an expense account, what kind of expenses? Oh, this was supplies, or this was for travel, so on. Once you identified it, you click add, and then it adds it into the checking account. And then wherever you see a match means these transactions already are in QuickBooks and automatically matched it, which is great. So, if you're sending out invoices through QuickBooks and you receiving in deposits, and then when they clear the bank, it automatically matches it. It's very, very slick. Same thing with expenses. If you're writing checks and in your check register, and I'll show you that, and you go in the check register and you put in the check amount and who you paid it to, it will automatically match it up like you see here, where these are checks that were written and automatically matched it. And all you got to do is click it, and it automatically clears it out because it's already recorded in your QuickBooks checking register. It'll automatically address it. Now let's look at the same exact thing in QuickBooks Desktop. So QuickBooks Desktop is a little bit more unique. In here, what you have to do is you have to actually go to, it's a similar concept. It's called bank feeds in here. Let me find the bank feeds here. There, I just saw it on the left-hand side. Okay, hold it. Give me 1 second. There it is, bank feeds. Okay. So this is a little bit more, as you can see, it looks a little bit different than what you see with the online. And here there's two ways of setting it up where you can get the transactions, where you can actually set it up directly through here, with your login information, just like online, and then you click download transactions, it goes out, pulls the data, and pulls them in here. So let's look at one where they should have some, see there's a transaction here. You can see it says 1. This one has 1, this one has none, this one has 10. So let's look at this. So this one went out and pulled it. So just like online, if there's transactions in QuickBooks that have already been input into the check register, it will auto match. There's 8 transactions that automatically matched it. There's 2 here that it did not because they were not in the checking register, which you have to categorize, like we talked about before. This is saying it was an ATM withdrawal. So here somebody created, this is a sample company again, they created a category or a vendor called ATM Withdrawal. And what QuickBooks, the nice thing about QuickBooks Online and Desktop is it remembers what you have categorized it to in the past, and it automatically will identify like, oh, you in the past categorized ATM withdrawal to tools and miscellaneous equipment. Now, the only bad thing is that if, for example, the ATM withdrawal could be for meals, it could be for anything. So if it remembers it, you can actually tell it not to remember it. There's a box that pops up. If it remembers it, it will automatically put it to this category every single time. So that's the only bad thing. So you have to be very careful. If you know for a fact this is not going to be the same every time, you do not want it to memorize a transaction. If it is, like if you go to Chipotle all the time, that's going to be a meal. So you can tell it to remember it and it automatically match it, which is very slick. So for example, in this one looks like it's a bank fees. So you can say, oh, this is from, Chase Bank, we'll create the category. Oh, this doesn't exist. It's a vendor. So we'll say Chase. Oops. Hello. Bank. I don't know if bank fees exist in here. Let's see. It may not. So we may have to create it, and I can show you how to do that. Let's see, income. Let's see if these, oh, it's called bank service charges. So bank service charge. So if I in say approve these, it will automatically add it. Oh, these are over 90 days. That's fine. Say yes. It then records it. So here's the part I was telling you about, where it automatically remembers it. It's saying, hey, do you want to memorize this? It automatically checks. If I say okay, it will remember this next time. So it'll say if it contains the word bank service charges, anytime you download this transaction, it'll automatically rename it to Chase and categorize it to bank service charges automatically. So you don't have to manually do it like the way I did it. And I say, yep, that's fine. Go ahead and do it. And this is what I was talking about previously. If you do that, it will do it every single time. And if it's not the case, you will have to change it manually. So as you can see, it looks slightly different. Now, there's also, if for some reason, and I've had this situation where through the desktop version, and I think QuickBooks has done a pretty good job in fixing this, but you never know, like anything, there's glitches in the software where if you do the bank feed and sometimes it doesn't come through, or there misses transactions, and it's happened in the past, you can actually, pretty much every bank site has the ability to when you log into the website, to download the transactions that we were just looking at in a QuickBook format. But so the only thing you would have to do is you have to manually import it, which it allows you to do, as you can see, import it's called a Web Connect file. When you click it, you can then, the menu pops up, you go in, pick it, and then it uploads, and then you will see all the transactions. So there is a manual way of doing it if it's not being able to pull. So far, with most banks, it's typically pretty good. It can go in and pull the transaction directly from the website. It's very slick. And it'll only pull the transactions, new transactions. So if it's already downloaded a transaction, if you use this feature, it will only download the transactions that were not downloaded. And then, of course, with the manual upload, if you happen to take transactions that have already been uploaded, it will normally, like I use the word normally, not duplicate them. But typically what I do is I always, try to, do a date range. But I would say they've done a lot of good things in fixing some of these issues where it will not overlap the transaction. But yeah, even if you say download a transaction from, say, from April 1st to April 15th, and then you go at the end of the month, you're like, did I do it through April 15th? Did I do it April 16th? I don't remember. So I'm just going to do the entire month, and it won't duplicate it. Okay. So these are the two differences between how the feeds come through when it comes to this. Now, let me show you what's called the chart of accounts, and I'll explain what that is. And I'm going to navigate back and forth. Here's the chart of accounts here. So as you can see, this dashboard looks different than this. Everything is on the left-hand side here. All the different category sections you have to go into, like the banking, if you want to go into generate invoices, if you want to generate bills to record, is over on the left-hand side. Here on the desktop, it's all in this way. So same exact thing. If you want to create an invoice to send to a customer, you do it here. If you want to enter a bill that you received an invoice for, you do it here. If you want to pay a bill, when it says pay a bill, it doesn't mean it automatically sends it. It means within QuickBooks, you're marking it as paid, and then you're writing a check manually, or you're sending a payment via ACH, direct debit, whatever it might be, however it might be. So that's what this desktop dashboard looks like. So, and this is where the chart of accounts is. Now, the chart of accounts looks exactly the same online as in the desktop. Now, what is a chart of account? A chart of account is a listing of all the, in essence, your accounts, your checking account, your savings account, maybe your credit card account. You can see them all here. Okay. Same thing with if you have a loan account, you can see here. So you can see here's your checking, savings, credit cards. In this situation, they have three different types of credit cards. If you have payroll feature through QuickBooks, you can see that here too. And I'll talk about that in a minute. And then, of course, your liability account, if you have a loan account, it's tracked here. You want to track all of this in QuickBooks, which is very nice. It is very helpful because if you ever have, if you ever go out to get a loan from a bank will always ask, hey, I need to get a P&L. What's a P&L? Profit and loss statement or a balance sheet. And how do you get a balance sheet? Right from QuickBooks. The neat thing about QuickBooks is it automatically generates it once you go to the right pages to the right menus, and will automatically generate your balance sheet and your P&L, which is pretty awesome. And creating a balance sheet manually in a spreadsheet is the biggest pain. So you definitely do not want to be doing that. So that's one of the reasons QuickBooks is also very nice, is if you are going for a loan, banks will be wanting to see, hey, how organized are you? How accurate are you in recording everything and tracking things? It's extremely important to have all of those things. The other thing is that having it tracked within QuickBooks also gives you the opportunity to manage your business more effectively, because QuickBooks has one of the best like reporting tools. So you can run reports like your profit and loss and be able to monitor your business. How well am I doing this month? You can literally change the data. You can see by category, and this is why categorizing is extremely important. And if you are running a business, you want to do this regularly. You want to make sure, hey, where am I spending a lot of my money? Where am I, where's my income? You can do comparisons from this year to last year. I mean, it is really, really a powerful tool. So for example, if I want to see, I can, just check these boxes and I'll run a report, which will tell me, okay, the same period last year, I had let's go to the total income. I did, this happens to be showing the same amount. Did the same amount of income. Of course, it's a sample file. This is extremely rare, never happens. But in 2021, from January through May, I had 10,200 in income. In 2022, I had the same. And it shows, I'm sorry, it has 0. And the change is 10,200. My bad, I'm sorry. So last year, obviously, was the first year. Didn't do anything, and they just started the business. So last year we had nothing. Now, you can even compare month to month if you wanted to. If you want to say insert previous year, I want to do like previous month. Let's do that. Okay. Let me change it to, let's do, you can even do year to date. This is very nice comparison too. Happens to be right now the same. So there's different types of formatting that you can do. Now, on the desktop QuickBooks, it's the same exact thing. And I just got to get rid of this. Sorry. Let me move this down. There we go. You can go to the same exact thing. You can go into reports, financials. I can run a P&L, same thing. It's showing this month to date. I can change it. Oh, I want to see from this so far, this fiscal year to date. The format in here is different, showing we're in the year 2025. It's showing, oh, we had income of $65,000. And same exact thing. I can customize the report. This box pops up. And I can say, hey, I want to see from previous year dollar change. What do we do? Okay, this is a perfect example. Okay, last year, what did we do last year? We had total income of 42.44. This year we had 65,000. we had a $61,000 increase. And you can see that across the board from all expenses. This is very, very nice feature because you can see where am I spending the most amount of money, where do I need to cut my costs. So this is an extremely very helpful tool that everybody should use when it comes to running your business, really. And as you can see, there is a slight difference in how you run it, but the format of how you see it is very similar. It doesn't really change. Okay. The other feature that I was talking about previously was payroll. So you can run payroll through QuickBooks. And the only thing with payroll is it is an additional paid feature that you do have to pay for. To add it. So for example, when you get desktop QuickBooks, on the bottom that you see here, you can see that there's payroll is active. This normally would not be if you did not have payroll. It'll say turn on payroll. Same thing with online. It would, if you were to, you would, and if you see the tabs here, it would say payroll, but you wouldn't be able to add employees or do anything like that. So you can run payroll through here if you want, but it is one thing that I really caution if on this is if you are doing payroll yourself, please make sure that you're making all the appropriate payroll tax payments timely and filing all the appropriate payroll tax returns. Extremely important. The penalties are pretty stiff from the IRS if these payments are not made on a timely basis and the reports are not filed on a timely basis. So if you want to, if you feel comfortable doing the payrolls on your own, feel free to do it. They do charge a monthly fee and the fees will vary. Now, the nice thing about desktop is it's a fixed fee. They don't track the number of employees. You can have 50 employees, the fee is the same. I don't know what the fees are for desktop. I might be like $50 a month. Now with online, it is drastically different fee structure. The fees are based on, there's a flat fee of, I believe, 25 to 30 bucks a month. And then they charge you per employee for having each employee on the payroll, whereas desktop does not do that. So that is a good feature that you have, that you can utilize for desktop if you want to do it. Now, of course, you can always use a paid service like ADP or any of these online payroll services. And similarly, we do this for a lot of our clients where we run payroll for them and take it out of their hands and they don't have to worry about it, and we just manage it for them completely. And of course, you have a human interaction, human person to actually talk to when you're doing payroll. So that's the difference. Our fee structure will be slightly different than if you use, say, an online version, because online they expect you to do everything, whereas here we're doing everything for you. So you would see, or any accountant that you use, if you happen to use an accountant that does payroll, same exact thing. So that is nice. This feature, I'm not going to walk you through the payroll feature because it is a little complicated, and I don't want to confuse people on this specific area because it's something that does need a little bit of expertise to run. Okay, now let's go back to so we talked about chart of accounts. We talked about some reports. Now let's talk about vendors. So like I showed you in that one, when I was in the bank feeds, we talked about vendors. So if we go to, you can add vendors in the vendor screen right here. Let me move this over. As you can see, there's already existing vendors in here right now. And with these vendors, of course, like you don't have to add them like now. You can add them as you go. So you can put as much detail as you want, like the full name, address, all phone numbers, or you can put just very little stuff. Like here's an internal revenue one where it's just internal revenue service. That's it. There's no other detail. Totally up to you. But like I said, this is, you definitely want to set up vendors for every single thing you do. Even Chipotle, you should set up a vendor, even, because you have everything in here in QuickBooks. Your vendor list will get large over time, depending on how many vendors you use, depending on how many how often you go to places to use your credit cards, so that is extremely useful to do this. And you can see if you have bills you want to pay, you get invoice from ComEd and you want to track it, you can input it in here so you know when to pay. And the nice thing about QuickBooks, it notifies you that, hey, there's on the dashboard, it'll notify you that, hey, you have this bill to pay. It'll send you, pop-up notification. Same thing with online. Okay, it's a little bit here online. They use different terminology just as expenses. If you go to vendors, here's a list of your vendors. Same thing as online. I mean, on the desktop. Online and desktop, very similar. And then if you go to expenses, this has a little bit different items to it. It just shows you here's all the expenses that have been input. Desktop is a little bit slightly different, like I said. The cool thing is if you do go to the vendor screen, you can see you can literally see all the payments that are outstanding to be made. And similarly on the vendor screen over here, you would be able to see the same thing. Oh, here's open balance, here's an open balance, and so on. Of course, through the reports, you can also run aging reports. Aging tells you how old some of these vendors payments are. So same thing with receivables. For example, let us run an aging summary. So it tells you, okay, looks like I have this vendor I need to pay $241 to, and it's about between 1 to 30 days old. This one is the oldest. I haven't paid PG&E, $86.44. Same exact thing. You can do the same thing here. If you go to reports, vendors, aging summary, it does the same exact thing. You can see the aging. Okay, very slick. Cool thing, you can drill down and it'll take you right to the actual transaction. Okay, same thing with online. If I was to click on this one, it tells you, oh, here it is. And I click it again, takes you right to the actual transaction. So it's very similar in that sense from a feature perspective. Okay, looks like I can take a quick break and address a few questions on some of the things we've discussed. Looks like we may have some questions.
Hi, Trak, I'll start looking.
Okay.
If we start with online, can we
Sure.
then upgrade to desktop later?
Going from online to desktop is a little more complicated. They do not make it that easy to do that. You can, but it's not easy. It's complicated. Going from desktop to online is super easy, of course.
Okay. Next question. What about a 1099?
What about 1099? I'm not sure.
Yeah,
I'm not sure what that means.
Linda, if you want to add to the question, please put it to the chat. Next one, will the software generate UI-340 statements?
What's the question again?
Will the software generate the UI?
Oh, 340s. Yes, yes, it will. It will generate that's for those who are not familiar, that's the unemployment tax return for the state of Illinois that has to be filed quarterly. The payroll feature does have that, and it will generate it, but you do have to manually do it, file it. Now, the one nice thing about online that I forgot to mention is with online payroll, they do have a feature where it's full service payroll, where they will automatically pay the taxes for you and automatically file the tax returns, payroll tax returns for you too, so you don't have to worry about it. Desktop does not exist. You have to do it manually. Okay,
great. Next question. Can you see year over year per vendor?
Can you see what? Oh, hold on, I just saw that. What was that? Can you see what?
Can you see
year over year per vendor?
Yes.
You can run reports to see what the vendor payments have been in the past.
Wonderful. Next. In regards to payroll, what if they're an independent contractor and not an employee?
Then you don't run them through payroll. You just pay them right through your checking account, like here. You just go to checking and pay it. And then if the question about 1099, I think it probably segues into that. Linda is asking how to enter that for contractor employees. Our
Right.
considered vendors or payments. Contractors are considered 1099s. Contractors, you have to issue a 1099 through QuickBooks. You can generate 1099s for contractors, but you would pay them directly through like a check. You know, you can write them a check, send them via Zelle, whatever, but you can track it right in here. You do need to obtain their social security number or tax ID number, address, so you can send the 1099s to them. If you want to send them by mail, of course, you can also send them by email as well. Online QuickBooks, it goes directly through online vendor feature, vendor payment, not vendor payments, so 1099 vendors. Desktop is a little bit different. They use a third-party service called tax1099.com. It integrates through it. It's a little bit tricky, but online is way easier for doing 1099s.
Great, thank you. Next question. Is there a sales tax category? And if there is a way to keep track of sales taxes, does it automatically know each state's sales tax?
You can set up sales taxes for in QuickBooks for different states, and you can run reports as well.
Great. Hi, need to know how to do invoices, cash flow statements, and P&L charts for a business plan.
Okay, business plan, that's manual. You have to do that on your own, but you can run cash flow statements right through the reporting feature, which is right here. Oops, right here. It says statement cash flows, which is right there. It automatically generates it for you. What was the other question that they had besides cash flow?
Yeah, how do you do invoices, cash flow statements, and profit and loss charts for a business plan?
Well, profit and loss I showed you earlier, and then creating invoices, which I showed you as well. You just click create invoice, and you can create an invoice for a customer and send it out.
Great. Which of these two are reasons for customizing a client chart of accounts in QuickBooks Online? Which two of these are reason for customizing a client chart of accounts in QuickBooks Online?
What are they? What are the two reasons they're giving?
It doesn't say. Hadia, I apologize if I pronounced your name wrong. If you want to add to the question into the chat, that would be great. They had another follow-up question. Which three of these are benefits of using QuickBooks Time? Maybe it was online. It's from the same person. If you want to follow up in the chat, that would be great. Next question, will the software, we did this one, the UI 35 and a 1099 statement. We did that one. Can you personalize your invoices and report with your logo or brand?
Yes, you can. You can put your logo on there. We do that for our business. We have our logo on our invoices, and it can be emailed directly to the customer. Right through QuickBooks Desktop, you can have it it goes directly through your email system if you have an email system, or through QuickBooks email system. And same thing with online, you can have it directly emailed. It's very slick. And the other thing that I forgot to mention is if you are using an invoicing feature with QuickBooks, whether it's online or desktop, they do have merchant services. So to collect payment. So for example, with desktop, they will get an email of the invoice. It'll be attached, the PDF, and in the email they will have a link where they can click on the link to pay the invoice. You can set it up so they can pay invoice either via credit card or via just like ACH, and the fees obviously vary with ACH. ACH is $3 per transaction, and if you use credit card, it's 3.5% flat. They don't charge. And of course, with the merchant services, they have different services. They have like what I just quoted is, you're not signing up for some monthly fees or anything like that. If you want lower fees, they have a monthly service plan, because if you're going to have a lot of volume of transactions, maybe it's worth paying for that, because then you get a lower rate. So they have different merchant service processing fees, but I do like it because it is fully integrated. So they can pay electronically, immediately through the invoice, clicking on the link takes them to the website. It's 100% secure. They put in their credit card information or their banking information automatically, and then it automatically deposits within 1 to 2 business days into your account. It's very slick.
Great. If there are any other questions, can anyone please put it into the chat? Give everyone a minute or two. For merchant services, can you automatically add the 3.5% fee for credit cards?
That is a very good question. Unfortunately, QuickBooks has not set it up to do that. So if you invoice somebody $200 and somebody uses a credit card, it does not automatically tack on another 3.5%. You, in essence, would have to add the 3.5% onto the invoice before you send it, if you know they're going to pay by credit card. That's the only bad thing. You need to fix that.
There's a question, how can I access the recording of this training? This webinar is being recorded and will be posted on BACP's YouTube page. I will put it in the chat. Again, it is youtube.com/Chicago BACP. Any other questions? Trak will give it one more minute, let them have the time to type their questions in.
It's fine.
How easy is it to add categories to my accounting chart of accounts?
It is super easy. Let me show you. Somebody's asking that question. You go to the chart of accounts, click new. And then if you want it to be you have to pick what kind of a category it is. If it's an expense, income, bank, fixed assets, whatever, let's just say it's an expense. Most of the time it's going to be that. And I'll just say Traks expense category. I'm just making it up. And there it is. It's that simple. And then on and then online, let's just walk you through that. Where do we go? Go to the accounting chart of accounts. You see there, it says new. Same exact concept, except it looks slightly different. You got to pick the default for whatever reason is always goes to the bank account. You have to be very careful. You know, we're going to pick expense and then change it. So this is a little bit quirky. Other business expense, and then I just change it here. Traks.
Trak, the follow-up question to that is, so I don't have to give it a general journal number?
You can. So you can, so there's a feature in here where you can set up, like here in this version, there's no account number set up. You can set up account numbers. So it automatically, so one, it will set it up automatically. And then when you create new ones, you can add the account numbers on there, but you have to activate that feature to be able to do it. Otherwise it won't do it. It defaults to no account numbers. As you can see, there's no account numbers here. Same thing with online. You have to activate it. As you can see, there's nothing here.
Okay, great. All right, everyone, anyone last questions? Any questions? Please put them in the chat. I'll give you another minute to type them out. Please put your questions in the chat, and while you're doing that, I'll remind, oh, here we go. If you are starting from scratch, new business, where do you start?
It's a very general question. I need a little bit more clarity on that. What do you mean by where do you start? Where do you start with creating QuickBooks, or I'm not quite sure.
Let's just assume she means starting with QuickBooks.
Okay, so with online, you just go to QuickBooks Online, QuickBooks.com, and create an account and create the company.
She did send a follow-up Trak. Which items do you enter first?
Okay, that's too general of a question. I'm not following.
I'm assuming, like, do you input your account first? Do you do accounts payable? Do you do your accounts receivable?
So the first thing I would say, the first thing you have to set up is your checking account. That's number one. With anything that you do, you always set up your checking account, because that's really where everything goes through. Then if you have a credit card, your credit card account, and of course, if you can set it up to download the transactions, I would highly recommend it. And then, of course, if you have any loans, setting up a loan account, and then everything else will fall through.
Okay, great. Next question. Is there an app version for the online, and is it better than just using a browser?
There is an app for Android and Apple, but obviously online much better than the app. Way better.
Great. Would you recommend using QuickBooks with an accountant, or is the platform robust enough for self-reporting?
Well, that's totally up to the person. When it comes to, we have clients that manage their own books, and then we prepare the taxes for them, their business taxes and personal, of course. And then we have clients where we just do the accounting for them because, they don't have the time, they don't have the expertise. It's just one thing that I've found is people who do the accounting on their own. Obviously, if you're not an accountant, you're not going to be familiar with how certain things go. And we will oftentimes find lots of mistakes, a lot of errors, and fixing it cost more than just having somebody do it. But it all depends on your capability, how comfortable you are in doing it yourself. If you feel like you're very savvy and you are able to do it, then go for it. You can always start it. And then if you can't figure it out, then you can always hire somebody to do it for you, and the fees vary quite a bit depending on the complexity of the business. And of course, the amount of transactions and so on, if you hire somebody to do it.
Next question. If you are an accountant and you got customers and they have a business of selling things, can you put more customers' business? Heidi, can you send a little follow-up information on that one just to clarify? Go to the next one. Can I generate 1099s to send to my vendors on QuickBooks?
Yes. Yeah, I talked about that previously. On the online version, you can, at the end of the year, you can just use the QuickBooks Online feature to generate 1099s and go to the contractors, whoever it is. Of course, the most important thing is the only way you can issue a 1099 is if you have all the information identified in the vendor field. You have to have their name, their address, their social security number or tax ID number. Email address is extremely useful. And then, of course, like I said, the address. Same thing with the desktop. You have to have all of that information to send a 1099, but you can do that too on both.
I'm thinking the question may be asking, can you put more than one business on QuickBooks if you're an accountant and you have more than one customer?
Okay, so with desktop, so with both online and desktop, you can add additional companies, to do the accounting, to track the accounting. Online, they charge you per company. Desktop is a software, so you can have 20 companies and it's one fee because you're paying just one time.
Okay, great, thank you. If anyone else has any questions, please put them in the chat. We'll give you another minute. Okay, yeah, that was the question. They said thank you.
Okay.
Any other questions? We'll give you a minute or two to put them in the chat. How much does it cost for desktop versus online?
Desktop is about, like I said, $400 to $500. Please check online. You can go to QuickBooks.com and they have pricing information for everything. If you go here, and same thing with see right here, plans and pricing. And here's the different pricing structures per month for the online version. And you can go through and see what the different features are. Like I said, as you add stuff, if you want to do 1099s, tracking contractors, blah, 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 like this one has time tracking, this one does not. So you can do that, and then I believe desktop might be, I don't know if it's down here, but you can probably, there's different stuff down here. Here's QuickBooks Desktop, and they have pricing on here as well. So it's different versions too. So once again, I would not buy enterprise. You don't need that. And it's between the two features, and you have to go through. So this one allows 3 users. This one allows up to 5 users, to log in at the same time. So it's just based on what you want.
Great.
And this is per year.
Question.
Go ahead.
How do you record the PPP loan forgiveness without creating income? Can you add it to equity?
Okay, so you should not be doing that. That requires a little bit more, that's more of a consultation, a tax consultation. And I would highly recommend reaching out to your accountant for that.
Great.
But yeah, that is a very unique question.
Great answer. Where can you take more advanced QuickBooks classes? Do you know of anyone else or where?
Yeah, so there are a number of organizations that offer it. You can also find tutorials on YouTube. There's a lot of people that have put tutorials on YouTube that you can find. Then there's also community colleges. I found there are local community colleges that will have advanced QuickBooks courses as well.
Okay.
So there's a lot of, even if you just Google QuickBooks training, there's a lot of websites that offer it, webinars, things like that.
Great. Any other questions? We'll give another minute or two. Is QuickBooks good to use for nonprofits?
Yes, I have clients that are nonprofits and we use QuickBooks for them. It's excellent. They have, whether it's online or desktop, they do, when you create a company, when you create a company, they ask you what kind of a company you want, organization, or let's say the company organization. They ask you, are you like, say, engineering company or whatever? They ask, one of the questions, are you a nonprofit? And if you're a nonprofit, a different type of chart of accounts will pop up. They have a standard chart of accounts that will automatically populate, and they will automatically populate for you. Whether it's desktop or online, they have both. Good question.
Okay. Great, thank you. Any more questions?
Yeah. So I'll just put this up quickly. So we've gone through setting up the company, chart of accounts, vendors, customers, checking accounts, and reports. The reports, I mean, there's so many different types of reports you can run. I just shown you some of the basics. And I just want to kind of wrap through some of the key things that we've talked about. And there were a lot of great questions that were asked. Hopefully we've been able to answer as many as we can. But one of the most important things about running your business is knowing how much you're making or how much you're spending, because I oftentimes have too many clients that are running their business without knowing what they even made every month or and at the end of the year, I do their taxes and it's a big surprise. I'm like, oh my God, I lost money. You should never be in that situation. That's where QuickBooks helps you make sure that you're tracking everything, you're running the reports, because you want to be profitable, you want to make money, and the only way to do that is knowing how you're performing. And the best way to know that is actually running your business through QuickBooks or whatever software you want, but QuickBooks is probably one of the best ones I've seen. And then of course tracking it. It's only as good as what you use it for. If you don't run the report to see how you performed, it doesn't really do much. So it's extremely important to make sure you utilize the functionality. Here's my contact info. And I believe this deck is going to be shared. So if anybody has any questions or needs our assistance in the future, feel free to reach out.
Great. Thanks so much, Trak. That's all the questions. Thank you, everyone, for attending. Trak, thank you always for being such a great presenter, great information. I hope everyone has a nice, safe, and good weekend.
Thank you very much, everyone. Have a wonderful weekend, everyone. Bye-bye.